This is the book of Bihar al-Anwar by Al-Allama al-Majlisi rahimahullah, volume number 66. This is the book of Kitab al-Iman wal-Kufr. Kitab al-Iman, the book of faith and not. And what's the opposite of faith? Not having faith, to deny, to be in denial of Allah, of the existence of the Lord, and so forth. And in this book, there's a massive section, a tremendous chapter on the topic of Makarim al-Akhlaq, those noble characters that Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam have stressed that people should follow. Okay, so we'll go straight to the first hadith here in this book. And that is first hadith in this chapter, page number 364. He narrates from the Kafi of Al-Kulayni rahimahullah, that Al-Kulayni rahimahullah narrates from our sixth Imam Abi Abdullah Jafar ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam, that he said that his forefather Amirul Mu'mineen, the prince of the believers, the king of the believers, Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, said the following: Inna li ahli ad-dini alamatin yu'rafuna biha. People who follow the path of piety, the path of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, the path of the 12 Imams alayhim as-salam, they have signs. There are indicators in them and their personality. Through these indicators, you can recognize them, you can identify them. So there are identifying marks and tokens and signs in people who are the true followers of religion. What are they? So let's pay attention to these words, and inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala, you will not find words of wisdom anywhere like this anywhere in the world. Sidq al-Hadith, the first sign by which a follower of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam is set apart from the others is Sidq al-Hadith, veracity in speech. Speaking the truth, being truthful. Being truthful. So he does not lie. He does not lie, except in those matters which are necessary, which are permitted. So what are the occasions that one is permitted to lie? One is in order to save the life of someone. If you have to save your own life or somebody else's life, then you are permitted to lie. In such cases, it's better to do tawriyah. Tawriyah is to use a speech of dual meaning. Speech of dual meaning whereby others or those who you're talking to, they will infer the meaning that you do not intend. And you have, and the real meaning, which is true, you have been truthful, they do not infer that meaning. They do not get that meaning from your words. So one is that. The other is, in the cases of war, if you are indeed in a battle, if you are fighting, and we do not have such cases, there is not any legitimate battle right now anywhere in the world that is Islamically sanctioned by Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. The only sanctioned, the only permissible acts of war in the school of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam are those that are fought under the banner of an infallible commander. And we do not have any infallible, a commander who never makes any mistake. So we do not have commanders as such on this day. Or if a battle is for self-preservation, a battle that's fought because somebody is going to massacre you and you cannot escape. Or in such a case, you are allowed, rather you are permitted to ward off, to push away that invader who wants to massacre you. Okay, so the other instance of where you are allowed, you're permitted to lie, is in the battle, because battle is an art of deceit, art of deception, and you are allowed to deceive your enemy. The third occasion whereby you're allowed to lie, when you are rejuvenating relationships between two parties, the relationship has been strained. So if you are reconciling between two parties who do not have a good relationship with each other and they are not in good terms, you're allowed to lie. So you're allowed to tell one party about good feelings of the other party towards them, even though it's a false narrative. Or you can tell them good words the other side have said about them, although these words they have not said. And vice versa. You come to the other party and say the same things. in order to mend their relations, in order for them to become friends again. Second occasion. The third occasion whereby you're allowed to lie is to your children and your family. If you don't intend to do something for them, and it does not involve violation of their rights. If it does not involve the violation of your rights, if your kids are insisting on you taking them next week somewhere, and you do not intend them to take them there, you're allowed. In a hadith that you tell them, okay, I'll take you. By next week, they forget. Usually kids forget those kind of issues. Even women, your wife, right? A lot of times they insist on having something which you cannot afford, and you tell her, okay, when I get the money, when I get my paycheck, inshallah, I'll buy you such and such a thing, and you do not intend to buy such and such a thing. So you're allowed to lie in these occasions, and you're not required to lie. It's not mandatory, compulsory in this occasion, but you're allowed. It's permitted. And that time comes. By that time, a lot of times, women, they change their minds, and it's important that you cannot, on these occasions, you cannot lie about things that are their rights. If there's something she deserves and you do not intend to do, you have to do it for her. If she legitimately deserves something, it's a right for you to provide her expenses, and she has to do silatul rahim. She has to send gifts to her relatives, things like that. Okay. So at any rate, we are not talking about these exceptions now, but exceptions are few. But on other occasions, in business and personal relationship with others. So the first, and in your daily lives, and you work in an office, anywhere. So the first character trait that a mu'min, a Shia of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam, is known by, it's his identifying mark is what? Sidq al-hadith. Veracity in speech, truthfulness in words. When he talks, when he speaks, he says the truth. وَأَدَاءُ الْأَمَانَةِ. The second sign of a follower of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, a person who is dedicated to follow the path of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, is أَدَاءُ الْأَمَانَةِ. Amana is a deposit, a thing of value or significant value or insignificant value that has been deposited in your care. So you may take care of it and return it upon demand. For instance, my neighbor is going on a trip. He or she has, let's say, $1,000 cash. And she does not want to leave this $1,000 cash at her house. She comes to me and she gives it to me. But I entrust you with this money. When I return 1 week from my trip, please return it to me, because I don't feel safe carrying all this cash with me, and I don't feel safe leaving $1,000 at my house. So this is amana. I've been deposited, I've been entrusted, someone has deposited a sum of money or any other good with me. So Ada'u al-amana requires that you honestly and faithfully discharge this thing that has been deposited into your trust upon demand. And you can never betray, you can never steal, you can never spend it in your own personal expenses. You have to return it. And it doesn't matter the person who has deposited this trust in you, who he is. He could be a wicked person, he could be a Muslim, he could be a non-Muslim, he could be an enemy of you. Whoever he is, does not matter. Even he is the worst enemy of Islam. Still, if you are entrusted by somebody to take care of some commodity, then you have to return it. You have to faithfully and honestly return it. Okay, that is the second one. The third characteristic is وَوَفَاءٌ بِالْعَهْدِ. وَوَفَاءٌ بِالْعَهْدِ. Al-ahd is a pledge, a promise, a commitment. And wafa is to be truthful, to fulfill your promise, to take care of your promise. If you have promised, you have committed to someone to do something, to carry out an action, to provide something, you have to fulfill your promise. You have to fulfill your promise. So that is, sometimes you have a promise, you have a pledge between you and your creator. Sometimes you have a pledge and a promise between you and your imam. Sometimes we have pledges and commitments and promises we make to friends, to family members, to relatives, or to our neighbors. In these cases, we have to fulfill these commitments. There is no exception in this regard. Okay. This was third. Number 4, wasilatul arham. Arham are your relations, your relatives. Sila means connection. Literally, it means connection. To make a connection of kindness, a benevolent connection with your relations, with your relatives. So acts of kindness, relationship of benevolence and kindness and courtesy with your relatives. That could be exchange of gifts, or not exchange because they're not giving you gifts, but you should take the step, you should take the initiative, and you should send them gifts. It doesn't have to be gifts, but it's just kindness. It could be a phone call, it could be a letter, it could be a postcard, it could be a visit, it could be an invitation to dinner. So every person's situation is different, and there are different relatives have different personalities, and different things are appropriate for each one of them. Sometimes it's appropriate to invite someone for dinner. Sometimes it's just appropriate to make a phone call. Sometimes it's appropriate to go make a visit. Sometimes it's appropriate to go if they have a car trouble or they have another issue at their home that you could help solve. All of these that you do with respect to your relatives, it's called silatul rahim. Silatul rahim. Connection and kindness with relatives. And this doesn't have to be, your relative does not have to be a good person, or he does not have to be a Muslim. Does not matter what his creed is, or how his character is, and how does he treat you. So if your uncle or your brother or your cousin is very unfriendly towards you, and he does not spare any occasion to torment you and give you a hard time, that does not relieve you of the obligation that you have to make on you and from your side, silatul rahim. You have to show kindness and benevolence and compassion and nobility in your relationship towards them. To always, you're required to show acts of kindness to your relatives. Okay, so that is number 4. So far, these relations, these tokens, and identifying marks of the mu'min are 4: sidq al-hadith, being truthfulness; ada' al-amana, discharging of entrusted commodities that have been deposited in your trust; wafa'un bil-ahd, fulfilling commitments; number 4, kindness to your relatives. Okay, next one, rahmatul du'afa. That would be number 5, rahmatul du'afa. Al-du'afa are the weakling. They could be weakling because of their age. Somebody could be weak because of his age or her age. Or it could be because of their lack of knowledge, because of their education. Or somebody could be weak because he's impoverished, he's poor, he doesn't have the amount of money other people do. So being compassionate to the weak. This weak encompasses all these people. If a person is weak because of age, because of a disability, because he's blind, or because he's limp, or because he's sick, or because he's poor, he doesn't have the income whereby he could support himself properly and respectfully, or because he's weak because he's very old. All of these reasons. So anybody, and they don't have to be Muslims, they don't have to be Shia, they don't have to be your relatives, they don't have to be your neighbors. Any person, anywhere, who is weak, you have to be compassionate towards them. You have to be charitable towards them. You have to show kindness towards them. You have to help them out. So that would be number 5. وَقِلَّةُ الْمُرَاقِبَةِ لِلنِّسَاءِ أو قَالَ قِلَّةُ الْمُؤَاتَاةِ لِلنِّسَاءِ. Okay, Nisa are women. So there, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam either said al-muraqabah or he said al-mu'ata. They both mean pretty much the same thing. Al-muraqabah means to to acquiesce, to comply. Al-mu'atat also means to comply, to acquiesce. So, the rarity of acquiescence to women. So, a mu'min rarely, on very few occasions, he tries to please his woman. So it doesn't mean he's not kind to his woman, but her demands. And woman doesn't have to be your wife. It could be your mother, it could be your sister, it could be your aunt, your wife, anyone. So not frequently listening to women, because their demands could be such that often that if you listen to them, then it will not allow you to be kind to others, to be generous to others, to do things freely that you would like to do. So you, as a man, you are the patron of the household. It's not necessary for you to listen to women, and it doesn't mean you do not listen to any of their demands, any of their requests. It says illa, scarcity, rarity. Illa means scarcity, rarity. The rarity of obedience to women, the rarity of compliance to women's and demands and requests. Because a lot of time, we have seen, right, in life, a person drives his business to the ground because he listened too much to his wife. A person drove his relationship with his father, with his brother, with his sister, with his friends to the ground because he always just listened blindly to his wife, to his woman, right? So that is something that has been discouraged, not just in this hadith, in many ahadith. So do not see, and also al-muraqabah means to fear someone's wrath, to fear someone's anger. So do not fear that your wife would be, or your woman, or whoever she is, that she would unleash her fury at you, that she would be upset at you. Do not fear, except on few occasions. Few occasions where it's legitimate, which is appropriate. Okay. The next is وَبَذْلُ الْمَعْرُوفِ. وَبَذْلُ الْمَعْرُوفِ. So ma'ruf is an act of kindness, act of charity, act of benevolence, any act of benevolence. Badl means to undertake, to carry out, to offer, to present, to do one's best. So how many we have so far? 5, 6. This will be number 7. Number 7 is to do your utmost to carry out acts of virtue, acts of nobility, acts of charity, acts of compassion, al-ma'ruf, acts of compassion, acts of charity. So anything that's good, that would be offering water to the thirsty, could be taking food to the poor, that could be teaching your neighbor's son because he or she is dialectic, or he or she has autism, or that could be taking your neighbor or taking your friend to hospital because he doesn't have a ride, or that could be finding a job for another person. That acts of charity, acts of kindness, they don't have to be very dramatic and very splendid. Small acts of charity are great acts of charity, and that could be splendid if you can afford to spend a lot of money and create a shelter for the homeless, or fund the construction of a mosque. Why not? But al-ma'ruf, acts of charity, could be small, could be big. It's according to everyone's ability and his capacity, right? The next one is husnul khulq. Husnul khulq. Khulq is temperament, and your attitude and your character. Husnul khulq, nobility of temperament. To be gracious, to be kind, to be charitable, to be very pleasant, to be very obliging in your demeanor, in your interaction with the others. So you have to have a character whereby you are not causing discomfort to others, because you are frowning all the time, because you are so serious all the time, because you get angry all the time, because you are in a rush all the time, because because you raise your voices and you scream if somebody makes a mistake. So all those things are not compatible with husnul khulq, having a charitable, having a noble temperament. Husnul khulq, or the beauty of individuality. Husn means beauty or goodness, charity, benevolence. Khulq means personality, individuality, temperament. So your character, your personality should be such that should be an that beauty and goodness of character should be visible from it, and this encompasses many virtues, right? Not getting angry and being forgiving if somebody makes a mistake, that you would be forgiving, and generosity. So if you see somebody in need, you don't spare spending some money, or being pleasant and being courteous in your talk. All of these characteristics. Okay. وَسِعَةُ الْخُلْقِ. Khulq, again, you know, that's temperament and character. Si'atul khulq means to be gracious, to be pleasant to deal with. It's very close to the previous character trait. واتباع العلم. اتباع العلم. العلم and the ahadith of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam are the sayings of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. Al-ilm are the sayings of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. So one of the signs of a mu'min, one of the signs of a Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is that he follows the speech of Ahl al-Bayt, the words of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, the guidance of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. اتباع العلم يعني اتباع كلمات أهل البيت عليهم السلام, following the words of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. And today, unfortunately, the Shia, they do not have anything to do with words of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, because they say we can't understand the words of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. They are so difficult for us to understand, and we only will do taqleed. Because words of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, it's impossible for us to understand. And that's a shame. Okay. And the other is, the last one in this list, وَمَا يُقَرِّبُ إِلَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ زُلْفَى. And the last characteristic attribute of a mu'min is that anything and everything that brings him nearer to the Lord, to the Creator, to God, to Allah, anything to brings him nearer. Now, of course, this does not mean physical nearness, because Allah is not physical. So if something is not physical, you cannot be far away from it, you cannot be close to it. That is irrelevant. That is not applicable here. And it does not mean the pleasure also. The word pleasure, although we see pleasure in a hadith that Allah should be pleased with you. So it does not pleasure of Allah or gaiety of the Lord, or if Allah is happy or angry at someone. What does it mean? You have to understand, and the theology of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam, in Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam words describing the Lord in His attributes, it has been enunciated and pronounced repetitively that there is no change, there is no flex, there is no change of state in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that changes, it has a beginning and an end. And it has anything that has a beginning, somebody brought him in, because you cannot begin yourself. It has to have been brought over, it has to have been initiated, it has to have been created by someone else. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the creator of everything, and it's impossible in the Lord's essence, in the Lord's being, for any change to be conceived of. It's impossible. So what does it mean, really? That Allah is happy or that Allah is angry? The wrath of Allah. Or Allah should be pleased with somebody. So all of these sayings, and what I'm telling you, all of these are hadith. These are not my ideas. These are not my opinions. These are hadith of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam. When we say the pleasure of the Lord, we mean the rewards of the Lord. So Allah does not get angry like we human beings get angry. So if a person gets angry, it means he was calm, he was serene, he was tranquil before, and now he's infuriated. Something has happened, that there is a change of condition, a change of feelings in him, right? That is anger mean. And if we say someone is pleased, it means that he has encountered a scene, or he has learned something that has caused him to have a feeling of gaiety, a feeling of happiness. That's what to be pleased means. So pleasure and wrath or anger, they are attributes that presuppose that the person or the phenomenon that undergoes them, it undergoes change. And Allah does not undergo change. So what does it mean? The pleasure of the Lord, the anger of the Lord. It means Allah's reward and Allah's wrath. So the last character trait of a mu'min is that he strives to carry out anything and everything that takes him closer to the Lord. You can never go closer to the Lord. He is never far away. So, but what does it mean to go closer to him? It means that to please him. What does pleasing him mean? He doesn't change. It means to be subject to his reward, subject to his blessings, to deserve his grace. That's what it means. Okay. So these are the character traits, that the signs that the mu'min is known by them. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam then said, Tuba lahum wa husnu ma'ab. Tuba literally means a condition of purity. It literally means a blessing of purity. But it does not what it means here. It's a name. It's a proper name for a tree in paradise. Wa husnu ma'ab. Wa husnu ma'ab. A destiny that's very blessed. A destiny that is very well desired. So, Tuba lahum wa husnu ma'ab, it's a verse of the Noble Quran. And if you read the translations of the Noble Quran, they have translated Tuba literally, even Shia translators, but that's a mistake, because you are not supposed to translate names literally, right? You have to explain what they are. So and Imam alayhi salam says, وَطُوبَى, what is Tuba? شَجَرَةٌ فِي الْجَنَّةِ أَصْلُهَا فِي دَارِ النَّبِيِّ مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وآله. Tuba is a tree in paradise, in Jannah. Its roots are where? In the house of the Nabi Muhammad صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. وَلَيْسَ مِنْ مُؤْمِنٍ إِلَّا وَفِي دَارِهِ غُصْنٌ مِنْهَا. And there is not a mu'min in paradise. There's not a single mu'min, a believer in paradise, except that there's a branch of this tree extended to his house. لا يخطر على قلبه شهوة شيء إلا أتاه الله إلا أتاه به ذلك. And in paradise, the mu'min, should he desire anything, the desire of anything that occurs in his heart, any pleasure, any desire that occurs in his heart, this tree can provide it to him. This tree, the branch of this tree, provides it to him. Okay. ولو أن راكبا مجدا سار في ظلها 100 عام ما خرج منه. And if a committed and persistent rider rides in its shade, in the shade of this tree for 100 years, he rides in its shade, he will not be able to exit the shade. ولو طار من أسفلها غراب ما بلغ أعلاها حتى يسقط حرما. And these are idiomatic expressions, figurative expressions, it's my impression, that if a raven flies from its bottom trying to reach its top, it will never reach its top. It will die from old age before it reaches the top of this tree. So it will never be able. It's a tree that's infinite, unlimited in its expanse. ألا ففي هذا فارغبوا. Beware, my Shia, in these character traits, in these attributes that I have explained in this hadith, arghabu, strive for these character traits and pursue these noble characteristics and attributes. إن المؤمن من نفسه في شغل والناس منه في راحة. Another sign of the mu'min. Mu'min, a believer, is a person who is preoccupied with his own personality, with his own obligations and shortcomings. وَالنَّاسُ مِنْهُ فِي رَاحَةٍ, and others are in comfort because of him. Others are in leisure. Others' lives are better because of a mu'min. His own life, he suffers. He suffers all the time. He's preoccupied because he strives. He struggles for these things. So he remembers his sins. He remembers his shortcomings. And he always is cognizant of his obligations. That he has to be kind. He has to be compassionate. He has to take care of relatives. He has to be kind to the weak. He has to, he cannot be furious at people. He has to have forbearance. He has to be pleasant to people. His talk has to be courteous to others. In his house, in the neighborhood, at work, at business. So a mu'min is always preoccupied with himself. Preoccupied with himself, what does it mean? That he sees his shortcomings on the one hand, and he sees his obligations on the other. So he doesn't have the time. It is impossible for him to cause discomfort to others, to annoy others, to perturb other people's lives. وَالنَّاسُ مِنْهُ فِي رَاحَةٍ. People, because of him, are living in a better world. Because of him, they're having a better life. People, because of this mu'min who is himself in a struggle, and perhaps even in pain. Because of him, other people are comfortable. إِذَا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ افترش وجهه. When the night spreads its darkness over him, when the night time arrives, افترش وجهه. افترش وجهه. Wajh means the face. He places his face, he places his visage on soil, on dirt. افترش. His face meets the floor, meets the ground when the night comes. وَسَجَدَ لِلَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ بِمَكَارِمِ بَدَنِهِ. Makarim is the plural of makramah. Makramah means noble, valued things. So in the body of the human being, there are not all organs, not all body parts are of the same importance, of the same value. The face is a lot more valuable, for instance, than the knee, right? Or the stomach, or the buttocks. So the mu'min prostrates. The mu'min falls with his face into the earth. And with all the noble and cherished parts of his body, the face, the palms, the chest, right? They all go on earth, on soil, on dirt. Before whom? Before his creator, before his Lord, the mu'min. So what does he do when he goes into prostration? We know he goes into sujood. What? So we are Shia, and it's so bad, it's such a shame that we all, Shia, non-Shia, we live only once in this life, yet we are so alien to the teachings of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. As if this is, we never heard these sayings. And the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam is describing these values, these instructions for people other than us. Okay, so what does this person do when he goes into prostration at night? Yunaji alladhi khalaqa fi fikaki raqabatih. He whispers, he prays, he beseeches the one who has created him to forgive him, not to punish him for his errors, for his mistakes, for his sins. Ala fahakadha kunu. Our Imam, salamullahi alayhi, may Allah bless him, Amirul Mu'mineen, the Prince of the Believers, Salamullahi alayhi, said, Ala fahakadha kunu. Be like this. I've explained it to you, and these brief words, be like this. So I hope, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, we can embrace these values and we could pursue these words of wisdom and guidance and light, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. So whatever is remaining from our lives, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, we could spend them in a better manner, in a more valuable manner, in the eye of the Lord and in the eyes of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. Okay. Next hadith. Next hadith, hadith number 2 in this chapter is as follows. Yahya ibn Imran al-Halabi says, I said to our Imam, our sixth Imam, Al-Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salam, Ayyul khisali bil mar'i ajmal. Which attributes are more befitting for a man? Which attributes, which characteristics, which character traits are more befitting and more becoming for us? He said, وقار بلا مهابة. وقار بلا مهابة. وقار means respect, to be revered, to be respected, honor. بلا مهابة. Muhaba means fear, to be respected but not feared. So that's very important. A lot of people in the world are respected because they're powerful, because people fear their violence and their retributions. That is not the character trait of a mu'min. The character trait of a mu'min is وقار بلا مهابة. You have respect, you have veneration of the people, but not their fear. Nobody fears him, but everybody respects him. وسماح بلا طلب مكافات. Second character trait that's befitting a mu'min is simahun, generosity, altruism. بلا طلب مكافات. Without the demand of reciprocity. Without the demand of reciprocity. To have largesse, to have generosity, to be donating to others, to be providing for others, without the expectation of exchange, without the expectation of reciprocity from the other side, that you should expect that, okay, now I've presented a gift or a donation, or I've been generous to somebody, now when is he going to reciprocate? When he's going to give me in exchange of that thing something in return? So simahun bila talabi mukafat. Generosity without any demand, without any outlook for reciprocity. وتشاغل بغير متاع الدنيا. And to be occupied with things that do not pertain to the worldly and beastly and earthly desires. So in life we have necessities that pertain to our physical aspect. It's not our spiritual aspect, right? We may want a lot of money. We may have desires for a lot of wealth, pleasures, a lot of things, right? You could think of many things. So that should not be the overriding preoccupation in your life. To be preoccupied with things that are not pertinent, that are not related to earthly needs, to earthly affairs. So it could be kindness to others, it could be taking care of needs of others, it could be recitation of the Noble Quran, it could be learning the ahadith of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam. And also, if you are working in order to provide for your family, that is not dunya. Work in order to, because you're greedy for wealth, that is dunya. But work, doing business, earning money in order to provide for your family, that's the duty of a man. That's an act of worship before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So none of that is dunya. None of that is dunya. You should be preoccupied with your duties before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before your creator, and not to worldly affairs. Okay. Worldly affairs, dunya, it's difficult dunya to translate into English. So it means things that are related to greed. Things that are related to greed. Okay? To be preoccupied with things other than things that are related to greed. Okay. So that's hadith number 2. Hadith number 3 in this chapter from the book of Shihab. Shihab Akhbar. Sharh Akhbar Shihab. It's a book of hadith. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, the holy messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم said, العلم خليل المؤمن. The sayings of Ahl al-Bayt عليهم السلام. Al-ilm, what's al-ilm? Al-ilm is not, and ilm is not just any knowledge. That guidance which comes from Ahl al-Bayt عليهم السلام. The sayings of Amir al-Mu'mineen عليه السلام. The sayings of the holy Imams عليهم السلام. These are a mu'min's companion. They should be your companion. Learn these words of wisdom that serves as guidance in your life, that gives you direction, which way to go in life. These are al-ilmu khalilul mu'min, hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam, is the companion, the kind friend, the kind colleague of a mu'min. Wal-hilmu waziruh. Hilm means clemency, to be forgiving. Clemency is the assistant of a mu'min. What does hilm means? Hilm means that if someone makes an error and he indeed deserves anger because he made an error, he made a mistake, you should not haste to repudiate him, to punish him. You have forbearance, to forgive. This is hilm. So if your wife makes a mistake, you told her 100 times, don't do this. Don't put my credit card on the dashboard. It's going to get stolen. She put it there again. And your credit card got stolen, right? It's a nightmare. Or you told your son, don't leave my cell phone out on the street. Told him 3 times, every time he leaves the cell phone somewhere where it could be stolen. And this time it was stolen. Now you have every right to be angry, to be mad, to raise your voice. Ilm indicates that you forgive, that you smile, that you say, okay, don't do it again. I told you not to do it. Why did you do it? Don't do it again. Forgive. And do not shame them on their mistakes. Sometimes hilm requires that you do not even bring it up again. Okay? Just forgo. Just ignore it. That's hilm. So the first, al-ilmu khalilul mu'min. The words of wisdom of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam are the best companion of the mu'min. Wal-hilmu waziruh. And clemency and to be forgiving is his assistant. Wal-aqlu daliluh. Wisdom, aql means wisdom. Common sense, wisdom. Wal-aqlu, wisdom is his guide. So he thinks, he reflects, and he asks others for counsel in order not to make mistakes, not errors. Wal-amalu qa'iduh. Amal is action, deed. So a mu'min is a man of deeds, a man of action, not a man of talk, not a man of mere reading and not acting, right? Wal-amalu qa'iduh. Action is his leader, his guide, the direction of his life goes where? His actions. He proceeds to act. وَالرِّفْقُ وَالِدُهُ. Rifq is to be tender-hearted, to be kind-hearted, to be benevolent, to be compassionate. Compassion is his father. Compassion is his father. He's born of compassion. That's his life. To be compassionate, to be kind, to be forgiving. وَالْبِرُّ أَخُوهُ. The virtuous acts are his brother. Virtuous acts are his brother. But because in older days, in Arab times, Family ties were very, very important. Today they are important too, but at that time, for Muslim, non-Muslims, especially in Arabia, at the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was a tribal system. And within the tribe, the subdivisions would be lineages and sub-clans, right? And then there will be families. So who is your uncle? Who's your father? Who is your brother? That was indeed very vital, very vital. So your brother is like your biggest column of support, biggest protection in life. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says virtuous acts is his brother, it's of course is a figurative use. It's not a literal use. My brother means that greater source of support, because a brother is a source of support in life. So who is the greatest source of support in life of a believer? It's good deeds. Good deeds. وَالصَّبْرُ أَمِيرُ جُنُودِهِ. أَمِيرُ جُنُودِهِ. And the commander of all his armies, the commander-in-chief of his armies is sabr. What does sabr mean? Sabr means to have patience, to have fortitude, to have endurance in face of hardships, not to be bitter when hardships crush you. That is sabr. Sabr is when life is not pleasant, when very unpleasant events happen. Like for instance, you could get sick, you could become poor, you could have an accident, your car is now you need a new car, you don't have money for that, or your family they don't listen to you. Everybody faces different types of problems, right? And in such occasions, do not lose your composure. Do not say things, do not speak, and do not do things that are not right just because you are undergoing a very hard time. Do not forget that you have to be grateful for all the good things that you always enjoy. If one blessing has been taken away from you, thousands and millions, not millions, billions and billions of other blessings we enjoy every day. Just look everywhere, blessing and blessing and blessings from the Lord that we live. We are drowned in seas of blessings from every direction. The air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, the blood that's running in our veins, the diseases that we do not have, a good night's sleep, and the family that we see in the morning, get up and we see our family, everybody is healthy, right? These are billions, these are not millions, trillions of blessings that we have, when we can never be grateful enough for them. So if we see in our lives some hardships, we should not say something. We should not speak of words of ingratitude towards the Lord. And we should not show bitterness. We should not show anything that contravenes gratitude, right? We should be grateful for the good things we have, and we should not complain. And we should endure. If we complain and we talk ill and we act in a negative manner, it's not going to decrease the problems, right? We have to man up and face the problems. Okay?